The wonderful thing about logic being illogic at the same time is you took force, the physical kind, you transferred it to force, the legal kind, and you made an equation which I utterly reject, and then went on from there.
So your view is that individual citizens cannot morally forcefully extract money from others, but if they organize politically and they persuade the government to do it for them, then it becomes moral.
I don't accept your language.
What part do you not agree with?
I would prefer to use the language of our Constitution that involves the delegation of authority. In other words, one of the tensions, you asked if contradictory propositions can
both be true.
Well, we have a wonderful one in this society.
Okay, what would that be?
And that is, we are a democracy and we are a republic. And it is a magical...
In the same...
Wait, let me finish.
Sorry.
The magic of America, to me, is summed up in that seeming contradiction. And the purpose of our political activity here in Washington, whatever, is to work at the point where these two contradictions come together.
But you cannot, with regard to the same point, be a system where popular will commands no matter what, and be a system that is restricted and limited constitutionally. With regards to a specific area, either majority rules no matter what, or it doesn't. Right?
No. It's the exact opposite.
Oh, okay. So it does at the same time. With regards to the same thing.
As a journalist, I worship chaos and order at the same time. As a student of government and politics, which I'm forced to be because of my job, I love the fact that America is a contradiction between our status as our ideal of a democracy and our reality of a constitutional republic. And the reason I love the contradiction, the reason I love the gray area that your questions don't quite allow, is that in that gray area where free citizens get active and do things and push the bar or pull the bar, to me that's the magic of what we have.
I think we're using the word contradiction in a different sense, because I'm saying a point-blank contradiction, saying that something is and it is not in the same sense of the word at the same time. And you, I think, are referring to certain tensions and conflicts that exist in society,
no, not at all.
Or in people's views.
No, not at all.
You think that reality itself is contradictory?
Absolutely, and
it isn't.
Yes, absolutely.
In the same sense at the same time. Could you give us an example of something that is and isn't?
I just did. We are a democracy, and we are a republic.
In the same sense, at the same time, with regards to the same thing.
Behind your question.
Give me one instance.
And it's logical illogic, like your question.
You think so?
and where that takes me is to the elimination of gray. And in my way, my philosophy, and what governs my behavior as a journalist in a free country, is that if you start to eliminate this glorious gray, I would call it, then you're taking me down the road to a system that has absolutes in it. And that is, to me, anathema.
You think there are no absolutes?
Absolutely.
Isn't that a contradiction?
I hope so.
And you think they can both be true, that there are absolutes and there are no absolutes?
That is the kind of...
You think that they can both be true?
A real journalist's head will always nod at that, because what are we? On the one hand, anarchists.
Well, maybe some. I don't expect all.
Or at least skeptics with a capital S. And on the other hand, I mean, the paper has to come out in the morning, so I guess there have to be deadlines. So, two contradictory things, anarchy and rules, live together in my mind.
Anarchists can, in fact, meet deadlines. That just because you're an anarchist doesn't mean you can't meet a deadline, right? I assume. Not being an anarchist, I wouldn't know.
All I know is that some anarchists do meet deadlines. But where I think you don't appreciate how my mind works is in the worship of gray.
Well, let me ask you something. Can something be gray and at the same time and in the same sense not be gray?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
You define it as within a certain spectrum of light, this is the gray, and then you say it is and it isn't?
In that contradiction is where one of the fundamental attributes of democracy shows itself. And that is the ability of citizen A to say absolutely X. Mm-hmm. And for citizen B to say absolutely
non-X.
Y.
Okay.
And for there not to be any automatic X is right, Y is right, but to require them to enter a place called a marketplace where on some days there may be a vote to determine whether it's X or Y. In a legislative body, it may require X and Y to somehow deal with each other and become Z. Mm-hmm. And again, to me anyway, that is exactly how America works.
Well, I agree that I agree totally that people have contradictory views and that they argue and fight to try to persuade each other as to which is the right one. Mm-hmm. But what I don't agree with is that A can be the best solution for the country and at the same time not be the best solution for the country.
Absolutely true.
That's the part that I don't agree with.
The reason I do, I mean, the first paragraph of A Tale of Two Cities summarizes my point of view in opposition to yours. It literally can be the best of times and the worst of times.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Well, compared to the same standard is the best of times, and compared to that standard is the worst of times?
In order not to have an authoritarian or totalitarian politics, it is absolutely essential that we recognize the possibility of legitimacy in contradictory assertions, directly contradictory assertions.
I think it's important to be able to accept that people have different views and that they should have a total right to express them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the two contradictory propositions are both true. Let me ask you about this, talking about contradictions.
You're not going to cut off my point.
Oh,
you've forgotten.
Can I ask you a question?
You've forgotten the ultimate thing that the point you just made doesn't recognize.
Okay.
All right. You are almost presupposing that there is an absolute.
That there is an absolute.
That if there's X on the one hand and Y on the other,
I'm saying that there
is some absolute power that can determine whether X is right or Y is right.
Only that there is a reality and either 2 + 2 is 4 or it isn't 4. But it can't both be 4 and not 4.
But we're not talking about arithmetic. We're talking about human life.
Either you're sitting on a chair or you're not sitting on a chair.
How about this? 1243, the Earth is flat.
Okay.
1547, the Earth is round.
Was the Earth flat in 1243? People thought it was flat, but it wasn't flat.
But that's all that matters.
All that matters is what people think. It doesn't matter how things are.
That's an observable fact.
Okay.
All right? But this is taxation. Let's get back
to taxation. I had asked you previously whether you could live well in a society where other people could legally gang up on you and forcefully extract money from you. And you had said absolutely not. Is not the system that you're proposing and advocating doing precisely that? In other words, permitting the government to be an instrument of some groups, coalitions, special interest groups that want to extort money from others and do so legally?
Absolutely not.
Okay, but
our history gainsays you dramatically. As I said at the beginning, and I can take one more question before I have to go, but as our history proves, we have done this a million different ways in the last 200 years. And in the next 200 years, we'll do it in another million different ways.
Well, I hope we have another interview in less than a million years. Thank you very much for the interview. It was very good.